I change your bum life. You fight me, it's a celebration.
I would beat you.
When you sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Are you ready?
That goes in the files.
Are you ready? Let's get it all!
Yo, welcome back to the fifth round. It's always your boy Stephen Moustaris, and of course little Gracie there behind me. But I'm just getting into it. I'm on a roll right now. I just did a little video talking about the Islam versus Alexander Volkanovski fight this weekend, and how I just feel like the UFC, and necessarily I guess like Dana and the promotion at least, is, man, just so disrespectful to this fight. I feel like, I mean, clearly we're hearing more about the Super Bowl. It's a bigger sport, but it's like, man, every time I'm on Twitter, every time I'm opening up, ESPN, and they're talking about MMA, it's always about the slap league, and it's about, Conor McGregor's fighting Michael Chandler in 7 months when he's finally free from, USADA, and all this stuff, and these fights, this fight, all these fights. But it's like, man, we're not even hearing about the main fight this weekend that's 6 days away. Like, I heard more about why Derek Lewis didn't make his fight a couple weeks ago over COVID than I did in his weight loss thing about what I'm hearing about Islam versus Volkanovski, which, I mean, we even saw yesterday about how Dana's forgetting Islam's name. So if you guys are interested in that and hear me rant about who's going to win that and why I think all this and everything and just how disrespectful the UFC's being to that, check it out. And then for me right now, definitely diving into it, I had to talk about it just because it seems like it's one of the talks of the towns. And Saturday, if you guys are a big MMA fan like me, I mean, Saturday was a jam-packed night this past weekend. I mean, Jesus, you started off with Bellator 290, clearly Fedor Emelianenko's final fight, and against Ryan Bader, which it's been very fucking sad for, our legends going out on their final fight. It's been terrible, actually, and then clearly you had the UFC starting at like 10 p.m. That was at least out in Eastern time, so it's like, Jesus Christ, man. It's like it starts at 10. And then that was just the prelims. The main card starts at 1 a.m. I mean, you had Amanda Serrano boxing. You had a couple boxing events going on, like jam-packed night. So I think I was up to, 3:30? I think we finally saw Derek Lewis get submitted easily as hell. Like, very jam-packed weekend. But I think the story of the night, honestly, it probably is the story of the night. Even with the Fedor loss, story of the night is Johnny Eblen, man. His performance in middleweight for the Bellator belt. He's already got the belt, but at Bellator 290, man, and the co-main, absolutely just put a beating on Tokov. But this is where we're getting a little out of hand here, and I don't even know if it's out of hand, but I just talked about it in this last video, man. It's the whole era we're in right now, where it's social media is everywhere, and everything's got to be the greatest of all time. Everything's got to be the greatest ever. Greatest fight I've ever seen, greatest taco I've ever ate, greatest movie I've ever watched, greatest song I've ever heard. It's literally, as soon as we're even hearing these things, it's instantly, it's greatest I've ever had. And, it was cool at first, and I definitely probably talk about it too. I put the GOAT conversations in there, but, ideally, in my opinion, it's more so, it's a Jordan, it's a Jordan Kobe, or not Jordan Kobe, but Jordan LeBron debate, which, I mean, Kobe's in there too, but it's like those GOAT debates and shit, but like, man, we got to put a stop to this shit for the greatest of all time and best person in the world, this, that, and the third off of just one thing. Like, don't get me wrong, Johnny Eblen, great fucking fighter. His demolition of Gegard Mousasi just a couple months ago was absolutely fantastic. He's got the pace, he's got the charisma, he's got it all. Like, dude's the man. But what I'm seeing on Saturday night after he beats a Tokov, who, not to be mean here, his biggest wins against Vladimir Shlemenko, I think, and then you want to count a Gerald Harris loss, or a win over Gerald Harris, which Gerald Harris, I mean, no offense to Gerald Harris, he's a dog, but like, outside of 2 slam knockouts, like, the dude's, he's a lot like a Tyron Woodley, less than Tyron Woodley, clearly. Like, not to be mean, Tyron Woodley did a lot more, but Gerald Harris was a lot more like, just he was always a frustrating fighter to watch, always holding himself back. But anyway, like, I get it was a great performance and all, but now I'm sitting here saying, like, we're sitting here, everybody's saying, Eblen would beat Pereira right now. Eblen would beat Izzy. Eblen's the best 185er in the world right now. And I mean, I'm not going to deny that he's one of the best fighters in the world, hands down. That's without a doubt. That shouldn't even be an argument. The dude is definitely, in my opinion, for sure a top 10 talent in the world with 185, and you could even argue a top 5, top 4 talent. But, like, here's where I kind of just have to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not shitting on Johnny Eblen. I know he's 31, which, for somebody who's about to be 30 this year, that doesn't sound very old, but I remember when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, even 23, it's like, oh man, 30, dude, it sounds like it's crazy old. But you're technically in your prime when it comes to MMA, as long as you didn't start at 18, kind of like a BJ Penn, or like luckily, knock on wood here, Max Holloway's still doing his thing, but Max Holloway's been doing it since 20 years old. Like, he's just now 30, 31, I think, and it's, we're seeing these guys that have had a lot of miles on, like Aldo. Jose Aldo's like a perfect description. Like, you think the dude's 50, but then you look and it's like I think he was 29, 28 when he lost to Conor, but he's been around for so long. So, Johnny Eblen's still got plenty of time to learn and to get better and everything. But here's just for me, just when I was watching, from Johnny Eblen's fights, I've watched his last 3, but it's, I'm definitely not as educated on him as I am these guys I'm talking about in the UFC. But like Alex Pereira, I can totally see where people are saying his, if he could, just the way that he can put people up on the cage, and his pressure, never ending pressure. And it's almost like you see those fighters all the time that they take the other guy's energy throughout the fight and they add it to themselves. Like, you got them guys that start off kind of slow, but they're just such grinders. Like a Chael Sonnen was like a perfect example of that. Like, these guys in the first 2 rounds, like, yeah, they have the cardio and stuff, and like, yeah, they can, maybe they're not going to strike with you, but they got the cardio to like push you and everything. But you're going to be in there, and you could probably, if you're a good striker, you're probably going to take advantage of them. But then when you get gassed, even show a little bit of getting tired, he's taking that energy you lost and adding it to himself. And then by the end of the fight, you're sitting here like, holy shit, Johnny Eblen's 20,000 times better than these guys, because he's got these guys tired. He gets them up against the cage, takes them down, wears on them, beats the shit out of them. It's like, it's very impressive. We've seen it with Khabib. We see it through a lot of people, and it's one of the most dangerous fighters you can see. But here's where we got to just be honest with ourselves here. When have you ever, outside of Izzy's first fight and shit, I know, or not Izzy, but Alex Pereira, like, other than that, it's like, when have you ever seen him allow himself to let his back up against the cage? To be fair, other than against a striker like Izzy, where they both weren't worried about the takedown, and I know there was a takedown in there, but they didn't really hold it. I know Izzy did, but I'm just saying, like, when do you see him allow a striker, a grappler, put his back up against cage? When do you see Izzy do it? And if Izzy is doing it, it's already when he's up 4 rounds and it's in the 5th and he's letting you kind of just lay on his leg like Vettori did. But you're not taking that guy down. Like, he's got the energy to keep his back off the cage. And if you do get him to the cage, he's got the energy in that takedown defense that you're not going to get him down. What about a guy like Whittaker? Like, Whittaker is not that dude. I get so mad when it comes to Robert Whittaker. I get so mad. Because it's literally like a Max Holloway. It's like, this guy has beaten everybody else in the division, and he just loses to the one guy that's got a weird matchup against him. Izzy is just way too tall for Robert Whittaker. And we saw Whittaker he actually started to figure out Izzy in that last fight that they had, and he won the championship rounds, but clearly lost the first 3, he got rocked and everything. But, we're sitting here, and it's like, Whittaker I just, in my opinion, I think he's got the cardio and he's got everything to be able to just absolutely dominate. I think he would dominate Johnny Eblen. I think a guy like Sean Strickland would be really tough for Johnny Eblen, if we're being honest. Somebody who can stay with and push the pace back at him and is not going to just back up the entire fight. Because Johnny Eblen's but his striking, and I know it's different because Tokov's a little different of a fighter. He is a great stand-up fighter. He's a great finisher, but he's not like a Izzy or an Alex Pereira or a Robert Whittaker, or even, to be fair, he's not even like a Jared Cannonier. You know what I'm saying? Like, where them guys could put you the fuck to sleep if you're fucking around. But he also has the cardio of, like, no offense, it was a lot of Johnny Eblen, but Tokov doesn't have the cardio of a Whittaker, of a Sean Strickland, of a Izzy, of a Pereira, of any of these guys. Cannonier even. Cannonier does get a little tired at the end, but which I think Johnny Eblen probably could win that fight. So that's where I'm being honest here. And this is where I have to be pretty fair to myself too, or to him. It's crazy. I'm not sitting here saying I'm shitting on him or anything. I'm just saying let's pump the brakes a little bit. Unless he actually came out with a whole different game plan, it didn't swing as wild as he has in the last couple fights, which is his game plan. It's his fighting, like, it's his style. It's just who he is, like. Which I think is why I think it would be such a hard tendency to break. Because if you start swinging like that against a Pereira, against a Izzy, against a Whittaker, against a Strickland, oh my God, they're going to pick you apart. I could see Strickland literally boxing Johnny Eblen's face off. And I'm not even saying Strickland couldn't beat Pereira, couldn't beat Izzy. Like, he's not even a top 4, top 5 guy in the UFC. Like, I know he could rank up there sometimes, but he's always going to lose to Whittaker. He's always going to lose to Izzy. He's always going to lose to Pereira. That's what it is. But it is really impressive that Johnny Eblen, we can only name 4 or 5 guys in the world at 185 that could really beat him. And I know there are more out there because this is the fight game. If these guys fight 10 times, guess what? Johnny Eblen's probably going to beat Anderson Silva at least once out of that 10 times. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just how fighting is. Anything could happen. Lucky punch, lucky slip, all that shit. But when we're talking just strictly based off of if both guys are on and we're just comparing, I just can see Izzy winning easily, just pacing it, like just taking his time, popping out of there, getting away, stick and move. And his takedown defense is fucking incredibly good. I don't care what anybody says. Izzy's takedown defense is incredible. Robert Whittaker's takedown defense, incredible. His takedowns, fucking phenomenal. But that dude's striking and his pace, Johnny Eblen would get in trouble. These guys that can keep that fight in the center. And this is the other thing. Johnny Eblen, as fair as we can be here, he is not the greatest. And it's really hard to do in MMA. It's really fucking hard to do. But so a lot of people aren't good at it. I'm just saying Johnny Eblen's main way to get you down is off the cage, tiring you the fuck out, got you all worried about your breathing, and then of course he gets you down. And we're talking straight up in the center of the octagon, straight double leg. I don't know if he's got it in him to take any of these guys down. And these guys are perfect to keeping the fight in the center, or even keeping you on the cage. So I definitely want to pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think he's the greatest fighter. I don't think he's the greatest 185er in the world. That's just me. But the fact that we're sitting here comparing, and this isn't hate for me, I'm just saying it's the fact we're sitting here naming another guy outside of the UFC. We can only name 4 guys from the UFC, 3 guys from the UFC to beat him. That is saying so much how talented this guy is. And it sounds like we're shitting on him, but we just got to pump the brakes a little bit when we're talking he's the greatest middleweight in the world. Yeah, could he take down Pereira and make it ugly if he learned how to not swing so wildly and learned just to literally just keep them straight jabs going and then just stick and move and just getting him tired, pushing the pace, keeping him up on the fence? Like, could he do it? I'm sure he could. I'm sure by the 3rd or 4th round, he could get him so tired. He could probably get him down, maybe that 5th. But I'm just telling you, them first 2 rounds are going to be so tough for him. When Alex Pereira is so tall, he's so big. That dude's massive as fuck. Dude's literally, his striking is so good. I mean, we saw it against Izzy. Like, I know Izzy was doing well, and he was probably winning on the points. But he never, outside of him rocking Pereira at the end of the first round, like, we never saw Alex in trouble. Like, he's really good with his distance. He's really good with everything. He honestly paces himself super good. But if he's just going in there against Johnny Eblen, I think that left hook's finding a home on Johnny Eblen, maybe an uppercut or something, because Johnny just gets a little too wild. And I could be wrong here. And he's got plenty of room to fix it. So that's what I'm saying. He could be a way better fighter. He's only 31. He's got a couple years left. We see these guys, in his prime, I should say. He's got like 3 or 4 years left in his prime, hopefully. It's just, we do see these guys later in their career get better and stand up and everything, and they become such a better fighter. I mean, look at Khabib. His stand-up went from literally night and day. Like, it was the worst stand-up you've ever seen in your life to, I'm rocking fucking DP. I'm rocking Conor McGregor. I'm up in this bitch punching the fuck out of Justin Gaethje, even though Gaethje's getting me good. Like, he was rocking these cats. So, it's impressive as hell. It's about fucking time too that we got another promotion finally getting the love and the respect that they deserve. Because I know Fedor was out there, and it's kind of wild on the timing of this. Like, you got Fedor retiring, and he's literally the pinnacle. He's the beacon of, if there's a better fighter in the world than anything in the UFC, it would have been a Fedor Emelianenko. You know what I'm saying? It's those guys. It's like, but everybody was talking shit about him because he was never in the UFC. I mean, everybody saw Dana White said, "Oh, we got knocked out by Dan Henderson, who's a lightweight or a middleweight." It's like, he's not the greatest of all time. He never fought in the UFC. He had the arguments. He was beating everybody in Pride, and then it goes years and years now where it's like, "Oh, I don't watch Bellator. I don't watch PFL. I don't watch One because those guys aren't as good as the guys in the UFC." You're fucking stupid if you think that. That's all I'm saying. Those guys are fucking dogs. Especially people like 135, 145, 155, even 170. Those kids out there, man, you know how it's literally, I'm the average man. Like, I'm literally 5'9", 175, 180, you know what I'm saying? I would cut some weight to be at like 155, 170. Like, that would literally be me. And that's everybody in the world. You know how many people I know that are my size or around my weight? Like, 180 seems to be like that number. And you could lose it to go to 155. If you're 170, you could try to make 145. You got these things in the world. It's the average person is just stuck between these 3 weight classes. And those are the killers in the world. You think the UFC has every single one of them guys? You think Bellator has every single one of them guys? Out of all the billions of people in the world, and then count the millions of fighters there are in the world, like, You're telling me that the top 30, 40 guys are only in the UFC? No, get the fuck out of here. These guys are killers, and they just need their chance to get out there. So it's cool to see Johnny Eblen. It's cool to see these guys coming up and do the damn thing. Like, you know, but at the same time, it's tough to watch a guy like Ryan Bader win, who I've seen get absolutely destroyed by most people in the UFC, and that's why he ran over there, and I can see him get destroyed in Bellator. So it's like, you know, I wouldn't consider him the greatest because he's the champion at heavyweight, but Johnny Eblen is doing his damn thing. I think he's got a lot of time to really work on that game too. He's young. He's coming. From what it sounds like, he's like a sponge in the gym. So I think, I mean, as sad as it is, though, I don't know if we'll ever actually get a chance to see these guys fight for us to actually do this. So that's why I'm kind of making a video and just like kind of just hypotheticals, because I don't think we're ever actually going to get a chance to see them fight. And if we do, I hope it's in time, but I don't know, man. You got Whittaker coming down to the end. You got Izzy, who, outside of the Pereira thing, like, if Izzy would have beat Alex Pereira, like, how many more fights does Izzy have in his career, to be fair? He's had the longest kickboxing career. I know he's still young and he's still funny. He's a great fighter, but, like, when we're talking about what keeps you hungry, like, he's already ran through the division. Like, I think Alex Pereira kept him around longer than what he would have been, but it's like Alex Pereira's getting up there. Dude's getting up there in age for sure. He might try to win. If he beats Izzy, he's definitely going to 205, and he's definitely going to fight for whoever's got the belt at 205 to avenge Glover Teixeira. So it's like, that fight's not there. Whittaker's not there. I mean, who is? So, I mean, Eblen could be one of the greatest here in the next couple of years, but I mean, I think a nice little start off would be, and I don't think many people are talking about this, but if Paulo Costa can get off his ass and finally get out of the UFC contract and actually want to fight and get signed to Bellator, and you're telling me Johnny Eblen, Paulo Costa, you're telling me Costa, that would be a perfect fight, because Costa's the man, but he gets tired, and I could see Eblen making that 3rd, 4th, 5th round ugly for him, but at the same time, Johnny Eblen's got to get through that fucking beast. So, I mean, I think we're a couple fights away from Johnny Eblen being top 2 in the world. I think he is in that top 10 to top 5 range right now, 185 for sure. But when we're talking the greatest in the world, it is all opinionative, so I can't sit here and tell people no. But just from what I watch and everything, I just feel like just because he's got 2 pretty big wins over the 2 bigger names in the in the Bellator, and he did beat a older gay guard, let's be honest here. It's like, just because of that doesn't make, like, I'm sick of this, like, you know, recency bias. It's always got to be something, the greatest this, greatest that. So I am definitely respecting him for sure, how good he is. I'm not talking shit about him. It's just, let's pump the brakes a little bit. They don't always have to be the greatest of all time. They don't always have to be the best guy in the world, but he is getting up there. And the fact that I can only name 3 guys from the UFC, 4 guys from the UFC to beat him, saying a lot of how good he really is in this world. So, as always, your boy Stephen Moustaris, and let's go, baby.